Hi everybody, welcome back to the DePaul Chalk Festival, the live stream version. We're finally here, our grand finale. Our professional chalk artist, Nate, is here to do a DePaul inspired chalk art piece. And there's a giveaway, you're going to be able to win it. Here's going to be the link, we're going to post it up the whole entire time. So if you forget what it is, it's going to be right here. So yeah, here he is. Hi Nate.
Hello.
Alright, well what do you have planned for us today?
Well, today I'm doing a 3D piece that is going to be a piece that you can pose in at the end of it. It's going to be dibs on top of a giant column coming out of a hole in the ground. So I've already cut out, I'm working on a dark gray canvas, and on top of it, I'm going to be putting all the chalk. And this piece, in the link below, basically, you can enter to win this piece once it's done. So he's going to have his hand up, and you'll be able to stand in the hand balancing on top at the end of it.
Oh, well, that sounds a lot of fun and perfect. Well, I'll let you get to it.
Okay?
I'm going to log or get off. But yeah, if anybody ever has any questions at all throughout this live stream, it's going to be going through 6 to 9. Just comment down and I'll tell him what it is and he'll answer it for you guys. All right.
All right, so I'm going to talk to myself a little bit here at the beginning, and if you guys are, anyone's watching, I'm going to kind of let you know how I got into chalk art. So I started actually at college. I was using chalk art as a side job. I had basically had done a bunch of like part-time work while going in classes, and I saw people making chalk art, and I said, well, I can do better than just like announcing a local party or whatever. I can actually put a picture to it. So I originally basically just tried my hand at it, and sure enough, I've been drawing my whole life. So it wasn't too difficult at the beginning. I think we all kind of start. A lot of people, as a kid, do a lot of chalk work. Chalk work. As a kid, it's not chalk work; it's just playing with chalk. But I just kind of kept doing it. So I lived in Illinois, and then I moved to Tampa, Florida, and down in Florida they have a bunch of chalk festivals down there. So I started doing more and more of that. And while I was down there, started learning about 3D art. So a lot of like 3D, the stuff you see online, like the holes in the ground, the different perspective pieces. So I said, all right, I will give this a try. And basically, it's kind of a self-taught from the 3D illusion stuff. So what I'm doing right now is down below here is going to look like basically a grass quad. So I am using art pastels, soft pastels, or chalk, and just stuff you can find at any craft store, sort of thing. And I got a whole box of little nubbins here, and I'm basically just starting to fill this in because this whole piece, it's very important that this initial area looks like a hole in the ground. So getting that, helping that illusion. So I'll chalk in these little edges so it looks like the floor is breaking through and you can see this outside scene below it. So that is kind of the setup there. And I have with me baby wipes, and I just go through and I'm smudging it with my fingers as I go. So that is kind of the whole deal. And when your hands get completely covered in one color, you switch to another one. So I'm going to start with just straight up coloring in grass using 2 different colors. And yeah. So basically how 3D perspective works, how all this works, is that it's super stretched out from the side. You can see that second screen up there is the face, which on this main viewpoint, the one I'm on right here, looks like it's in correct perspective. But if you were to see it from the iPad I have set up over there, it's probably about 2.5, 3 feet long. So it's very stretched, and that's part of the 3D perspective, is that you build it so that it looks 3D from one vantage point. And then from there, you can build off of that. So down here, beneath, nothing is really stretched out, but when it comes to Dibs reaching out and standing on this column, that's all going to be pinched back to the viewpoint. And the viewpoint is exactly where I have this set up right now. So, wait, I see a question. What is a challenge you face working with art? I would say the biggest, in chalk, the biggest challenge that you are going to face is weather. So working in an art form that can be washed away with a pop-up shower is both humbling and at times devastating. But it's a whole lot of fun, but I would say it's probably the weather. Also, it tends to be, which is a good and a bad thing, but definitely a challenge, is that, it's not high, it's not like, people don't think of it as something where, you go to a museum and see chalk art, for example, maybe some like really nice pastels, but it's typically something that has, people look at you down there and be like, wait, hold on a second, what's your real job? Because you can't be working in chalk for a living. And I'd say, yeah, I do. I do chalk and paint, but I think working alongside, if you're on the ground working outside, there's definitely a chance that someone with a stroller who's on their phone accidentally runs you over. So I've had a wheel of I think it was a bike, nick me once while I was working, which wasn't like a ton of fun, but that was, I would say, weather and probably, trying to stay safe out there, because for the most part, when not in COVID times, this is a pretty, you're out in public, so you're dealing with all things sort of public related. All right, so I have a little bit started the grass here. I'm gonna probably I'll bring this up here. I'm trying to go somewhat fast with the grass because the grass is not I would say, the most interesting part. But like with most longer art projects, it's not. In some ways, I like to save the really interesting stuff usually till a little bit later. So if you're coming and going from this feed, I recommend checking in every once in a while. But just like, I don't want to do all this super fun stuff first, and then at the end, I'm over here going like, grass, more grass. But if I start with the grass, and while I'm ready to go and excited about my lovely grass work, then when I get to the face or the bricks or something interesting like that, I can be ready to go. I'm doing my best here usually when I'm outside, I'm a little bit sloppier, but when I'm inside of my own studio, I don't necessarily want to chalk on the floor. So what we have here, we got a little bit of a path forming. I have a couple people and a little kid hanging out down here. So I think I'm going to get, trying to figure what color I want here. It's a bit yellowy, especially in chalk. You don't always have the colors that you want. Sometimes you're just like, just a little bit. So that's where you kind of be able to get the whole blending setup there. All right.
All right, I actually have a question. What made you decide to do divs? I know I gave him a whole bunch of inspiration of DePaul, and he came out with divs.
Yeah. I would say, especially it's just perfect for chalk because in general, chalk is lighthearted and the whole medium it's not for people who want to be super serious all the time. And I think having like going with a mascot and going with kind of that childlike, um, just kind of freewheeling subject matter. It's a little bit. I mean, I can definitely do things that are more serious and more kind of stoic, but I think in general, if you're going to have a big piece of chalk and you're going to play around and get messy, go with a subject matter that is fun.
All right, and then how has like COVID been affecting like your work and the way you do things with your profession?
Sure. I would say it has been, I don't know, I mean, like, not to be like a Debbie Downer too much, but pretty devastating to a lot of chalk artists. It's a field that relies heavily on events. And so when it comes to creating for events, it's definitely been, I know a lot of chalk artists that have, had to be pretty resourceful and creative in how they're going to go about making art. Because without events, I know several chalk artists do work at conventions and they do fan art, superheroes and things like that. And so that is something where a lot of chalk artists have moved to trying to do commission pieces during COVID or, just like this, doing virtual events. So it has definitely been a time for me of getting a little better with video, setting up more usable, fun time lapses of finished pieces. Actually, at the moment, up here next to this viewpoint, I have a time lapse of this whole process going in. So it's always fun to look back, and then I also get to see in the time lapse how productive I was, or or not productive. It kind of depends. So for doing a 3D piece, all your vantage point. Oh, you have one for me. You have a question for me. I'm ready.
Okay, so we actually have some questions from Facebook. Josh, he said, "How long have you been doing chalk art?"
I have been doing chalk art since I was a kid, but professionally since 2011. So I'm on my ninth year of doing this, so I've been doing it for a while.
All right, and then the other question is, by Christina, is who is your favorite chalk artist?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say, I mean, there are many that I think are wonderful. Um, but Audrey Rocio from Mexico is Adry, I think Rocio. Her last name is fantastic. Her work is incredible. And she travels around the world and does it. I would say also another favorite of mine is Vera Bugatti, like the car as the last name, and she is Italian. And she does this work as well. And then there are also many great U.S. artists, Tracy, Lee Stum. If you like video games, Chris Carlson out in Colorado does a bunch of like old vintage Mario, and it's some pretty cool stuff that he's doing. So everyone's got their own sort of style to it, but so I guess I'm sort of biased.
But you said earlier that one of the artists travels around the world. Do you get to travel a lot with this job? Whenever, I mean, we're not going through COVID.
Yeah. Usually in pretty normal times, I get to do quite a bit of traveling. So they have. I went to a festival in Dubai. So that was a pretty cool location. It was basically a competition from artists from around the world. So I was one of two artists representing the United States out there. And I've been to the Netherlands, I've been to Kosovo, Curacao, Colombia, a couple different places. I think I did one in Denmark or not. Yeah, so a lot of different events, and sometimes because I also can paint murals as well. Sometimes I'll do in Europe, for example, street painting. It doesn't have to be in chalk; it can be just in regular old paint, and that they'll actually you don't have to worry about it washing away. You basically just go there, create it in paint, and then it gets just blasted with pressure washers. That can stay up for a whole year or so. So that's a pretty fun thing. You don't have to worry about, oh, will this wash away? You just can create. Trying to at the moment. Also, like it's very easy. I don't know if anyone's watching who's also an artist. I know I hear you at times when you kind of get lost in a project, which is great, unless you have a deadline, then it's not great. So especially tonight, I really want to make sure that I'm in these 3 hours that I can finish a great piece. So constantly trying to have an internal clock in my head that says, hey, um, make sure you don't stay on one piece for too long.
What was the longest piece that you've had to make, like the duration?
Ooh, I did a piece. I've taken 8 days on a piece before, so that was definitely that definitely took a while. I think for that one, it was maybe a 70-foot long by 30-foot wide piece on a bridge. It was like a walking bridge. I wasn't dodging traffic, but putting in some blue highlights here for these pedestrians. I'm thinking about whether I want to add trees or not, and I'm getting, I don't know, I might have little Bob Ross level indications, some sort of leaves and changing leaves or something. So I might add in a little bit here and there just to add a little more color. I'm heading to the other side, I think. We'll just keep with the grass. Getting a whole new stick of this light green. Heading over here. So I'm leaving these edges dark because these will be areas that look like the hole is dropping off. So I'm also back here. I'm looking at, if you look at the camera, see if you can even see this. As anything gets further away from you, you get atmospheric perspective. So everything gets a little bit less contrasty. Sometimes, depending on the sky, you can get kind of a bluish haze to it. Why you can get like the purple mountains sort of thing of the scene. So, coming to this side. A little bit of blue. Let's see. Kind of want this path to go back behind here. I don't want this to be all super detailed because at the end of the day, it is background. I want it to be indications of paths and the quad and that sort of thing without, it's not supposed to steal the show. It's supposed to kind of fall back, and sometimes the more details you put into an area like that, you can actually pull away from your main subject matter. My little art lesson for the night is you don't need to build the exact same amount of detail into every part of your art. Sometimes you can just let it be a color. You know what? Let's pull this. I think I can do this. Pull this a little closer. There we go. Try to stay out of the shot here. So this right here will be a hand coming in here, so I'm just going to kind of go around that. I use the side of the piece of chalk a lot because you just go faster with it. I add a little bit of that lime green and then bring in a little bit more color on top. So there's some variation.
All right. So have you always been like, I think you said earlier, have you always been artsy?
I have.
Yeah.
It's definitely been something I've always wanted to do. Actually, as a kid, I wanted to be an animator for Disney. That was my childhood dream, which in some ways I had it kind of fulfilled, not as an animator, but I create chalk art down at Disney at Epcot. So every once in a while I'll head down there and do that. And get to interact with kids who come up and just sit down in the middle of their park, even though their parents want to like keep walking. They're like, no, I want to watch the guy, which is exactly the kind of kid I was going to Disney World. So it's kind of cool to be on the other side and hopefully inspiring some kids to create art.
What type of art did you like start out with, and like how did you like land into chalk art?
It was, I definitely did a lot of sketching as a kid, so I was a lot of pencil, basically whatever was around. I got into doing some more acrylic paint. I was never great at watercolor, so I never really got much into that, but always was playing with chalk as a kid. I think if you ever done the thing where you have someone lay down on the ground and you draw a chalk outline around them, and then you can like draw them in a superhero costume or something, put a cape on them or whatever. So I'm doing that a lot as a kid. And then so I actually went to school for design, which I actually worked in for a little bit while I was creating chalk on just as a little side hustle. So what started as a side hustle in 2015, I went full doing freelance chalk and mural art there. So that was a somewhat, I guess, risky step, but at the same time, it's my entrepreneurial, I guess, advice is to, hustle on, what your dream job is and what you're looking to do, and make that the thing you kind of focus on during your evenings or weekends or whatever. And if you're currently working somewhere, do that as great as you can there, and then that way you're not just leaping into it. You're actually giving it a try in your off time, because like most things, it's really fun, it's really great, but when something becomes your full-time job, you want to make sure you really like it and not just the idea of it. So it's my soapbox on freelance stuff. So a little shadow down here. That might have been too blue. Maybe? Nope. Black. Better. I'm going to create a tree down here. I think down in this corner, we're going to have a little bit like some leaves are poking out. Happy little tree. The cool thing about working on a dark surface is that I don't have to put a ton of chalk down in order to get it dark. I kind of like working off of a darker surface than I do working off of white. Because I don't know, I like popping out the highlights at the end a little more than just trying to carve in a bunch of darks. Indications of some kind of changing leaves, a little bit of orange, add a little orange. The great thing about chalk is that if I do this and go, I do not like what I've done, it's pretty easy to just cover it up with more chalk. using the side of a piece of chalk in order to cover.
So do you have like a favorite piece of something that you've done in the past?
I feel like my favorite piece is always the one I'm about to do, and my least favorite piece is the one I just did. Because I'm pretty picky about the stuff that I, pretty judgmental of my last piece of art. But I would say pieces that I've loved to do in the past. I'm a big sports fan, so anytime I can do art for a team, I'm always pretty excited. I did one piece a long time ago that still I have fond memories of, is doing a piece for a festival that was a poster art of Indiana Jones from artist Drew Struzan, who is, I'm a huge fan of his work, and so I did an Indiana Jones poster cover at a festival, actually in Canada was the festival, and I posted it and everything, and he actually commented on the art and kind of said that he liked it. So that was was a highlight for me of feeling like, oh, this artist that I love has seen my art, seen my homage to his stuff. All right, I'm going to work on these edges here. So I think what I'm going to do, which I'm kind of figuring out along the way, is to make these edges look like floorboards have kind of broken away. So every line that needs to go down into the hole all comes back to the viewpoint. So the one screen that is from the correct perspective, that all these angles come back here. So I'm going to try to bring in a little bit of dark brown. I think I determined that my light source is down, like heading this direction. So this area is over here will end up being dark.
Do you do at all like a lot of collaborations with other artists at all?
I do. I've actually, for bigger mural projects, I'll bring in some other artists. Um, a great thing about usually with chalk art, there's a limited time frame that you have to work in. And so bringing in 2 or 3 people is sort of great, especially Chris Carlson, who I talked about earlier, who creates like video game and different pop culture pieces out in Colorado. I've done a few projects with him, and I think it's cool having someone that you feel like you got to be able to get along with and work well with, and he's one of those people. Okay, so over here on this side, although it's somewhat darker, actually I'm gonna let these cracks kind of come through a little bit. I'm going to give a few of these highlights because they're facing towards the light source. A little bit of cracking. All while trying not to necessarily draw my own form. So here's all putting in some highlight edging. Trying to leave some of the imperfections there so that it doesn't look too sterile. Having a piece that looking like it has a little bit of hand done to it. Hand doneness? Is that a word? Probably not. So up until this point, I've really yet to use any black in here, and that's pretty intentional. Anything that's in the background, as we talked about earlier with atmospheric perspective, I don't want it to be, I want the main subject matter to get the darkest darks. So this is sort of the first like significant black that I'm putting in here. So the idea here is that this is casting a shadow on this edge of this hole. So this is getting darker. So hopefully, as you move up and out of the hole, the contrast increases. And because the contrast increases, things will end up looking closer to you. So it's not just stretching the art that gives it the illusion of 3D, but you also got to be able to work with value. All right, I think I'm going to do the people. I think the people are next. First, maybe white. looking at my reference on my phone here. So if there's questions of I'm not doing anything, I'm not trying to freehand all of this for sure. I really want to try to get the people looking pretty good.
What would you say was the most difficult piece you've ever made?
Most difficult. Let me think. It might be tough. I think it's got to be something with people. But also, like people. It's a great question. I think something that has a really exact geometric form to it. So in 3D, you really have to like nail it if you're going to do like logos, for example. I actually find logos as being probably one of the more difficult things that I do because if you stretch a logo out and it's wonky, a company does not enjoy that. It's not smiled upon. So I'd say that's probably anything that involves a really intricate logo. Um, and then I think the next most difficult thing is doing something that's meant to look like a famous person. Because you can get away with a lot when it comes to doing just a face. Because if you don't know them, you know, it could be anybody. But if you're doing somebody, precise, exactly somebody, I did some NHL All-Star game a couple of years ago, and it's like, no, these are, Ovechkin looks like Ovechkin. It's a real person, so you have to make sure you get that right in chalk, otherwise, everyone knows. You can see from this camera right here, you see how stretched out these figures are. This is probably 15 inches long, and each person is probably 1.5 inches wide. So it is definitely. But then up here at this D point, I mean, they look 4 inches tall, tiny. So that's the part of the illusion of 3D is being able to create things, looking at it, going, oh, this doesn't look right. It looks all stretched out, but being able to kind of envision, okay, what will it look like from the correct perspective? see, moving down to this group right here, which is the family group. I just Well, I drew out what I thought it would be earlier, so I'm sort of trusting what I've done before, but you're kind of looking at it from a different direction. You think, did I do that right the first time? This one might involve some guessing and checking here, so we'll see. This person's wearing a shirt, a little kid. So I'm moving between colors pretty loosely. There are some people that work kind of like printers and just scan through the whole thing with one color. I like to kind of bop about between different colors. I think that's I don't know. I think maybe that's how my mind works. Is I want to, if I see something I want to do, I just want to just be able to switch chalk pieces and do it. So it ends up being probably not as efficient. But overall, I think it's ends up being kind of part of my style. And these are just indications of people, so I'm trying not to too much detail in them. They're just basically just like swatches of color in here. Oh, I may have carved into this leg a little too much. Reverse, reverse. I'm not sure what this guy's body looks like from the viewpoint, but from here, he's a bit like a, looks like he's just made of rubber. He has no joints. Gotta add some sort of form to him or her.
Okay, I was actually really curious about this. So you're doing this for like hours at a time. How does your like body, like physically, how tiring is that? And like, do you have to do lots of stretches in between just to like reorientate, get better?
No, it's true. It really is like a very low impact yet weirdly tiring activity. So just sitting in one place, kind of moving around, you definitely can feel it the next day. I try to make sure that I'm not in one place for more than or one position for more than 10 minutes at a time. But it's definitely taxing. And it's also different. Working on this, I can kind of stay in one place a little longer. But if you're working on a 30-foot long piece, you're walking around, standing up, sitting down, checking your viewpoint, all sorts of things. So yeah, it takes a little bit of stretching, a little bit of flexibility. I think there's definitely a couple things that I end up just being more flexible in just because I do this. So I can usually stay seated, cross-legged for a long time before getting tired or getting sore.
All right, and we do have a question from Facebook. Christina asked, "How has anyone ever stepped on your work and ruined it while you were working on it?"
Oh, that is a great question. No, not for stepping on it. Usually, well, no, I take that back. I have had little kids come on before, and because you want to see like, hey, will it get damaged if I touch it? So I've had that happen, and usually it's fine. But then sometimes the parent will kind of yell out like, "Oh, stop!" And because the kid gets nervous, the kid will then start kind of like pivoting their feet around, and then that's when it starts smearing it. So not um, not terrible for foot traffic. I think that's pretty decent. What's worse is anything with wheels, because wheels can kind of track the chalk through the piece. So I think I had a golf cart run over a piece before. But if you work in chalk a lot, you definitely get used to fixing pieces because, for example, you can cover. Um, sorry, I'm not trying to not sit on my own piece. Um, you can try to cover it, but sometimes rain, for example, will seep under a plastic tarp if you're doing that sort of thing, and you'll end up needing to fix it. So I think it's less uh, feet and more bikes, strollers, cars that can really mess it up. But yes, I've spent a lot of time fixing pieces.
And then, have you ever like used the rain to your advantage, or any type of water to try to like cause some effect?
I have never going into it thinking like this is what I'm gonna do, but I've definitely used like the rain from a night before that was kind of washing um, some stuff away. I have definitely used that water effect as part of a background before. Little happy accident sort of thing. Um, but yeah, some artists actually will take their chalk and blend it with the water, like actually like make it a almost kind of a paint when you start mixing sort of the pigment together. Um, I typically like to not add water to mine, but that's just personal preference. Trying to figure out what color I want this. Pink might be a little bright. Red. We'll say this is kind of fuchsia-y. Fuchsia-ful. We'll go with this. For the most part, I try to not spend a ton of time pre-designing a ton of different elements because it's a lot of fun to kind of work out some of these details along the way. And also, sometimes you just have to adjust because I do a lot of design on the computer, and it looks one way there, but it can definitely work when you're actually doing it. You think, actually, what looked good in the computer screen, when I'm actually doing it, I want to go a different direction. All right, I'm checking my viewpoint over here with my phone. Trying to see where we're at. Using my phone in front here to take my own photo. All right. Things that I've noticed that I want to fix. Just like I had feared, this fine gentleman here has an oddly shaped. He had like two faces. Yep. Also, this blue is a little intense up here. So to add a little interest down here, I'm going to, since we have shadows, light sources are heading from top left to bottom right. We're going to say that this tree down here is going to be casting a shadow. Shadows are a good way to kind of add interest to areas that you think, it's a little, I don't need it to be the star, but it's a little flat.
So obviously you get hired to do this stuff. Do you ever just do it for fun, just for your own self?
I do. Sometimes, I think the reason why I would do it for myself is if I just like, there's some subject matter that I really want to do, and there's just not a good opportunity to do that actual piece. So, for example, one I recently did just for fun is that I did a Jurassic Park themed piece with a bunch of raptors. Um, Not because a client paid me to do it, but just because I had always wanted to draw raptors. And so I said, why not? And yeah, that's sort of end up doing it. I don't do a ton. I guess another one is recently, I'm a big Survivor fan, so I did some um, of the Winners at War cast members from Survivor, just for kicks. And that was just in the middle of COVID, late spring, and I was like, you know what? I don't have a lot going on anyway, so let's do it for fun. But the great thing about doing things for fun is that they're also great practice for actually getting better as an artist. So it's I guess, part of the continued education as well. So I've kind of added in these areas over here as like there are some trees down below off to the side that are casting shadows kind of over and about. Something I noticed in the picture from the viewpoint is that it's a little, I end up having a little bit of too much, dark lines in between sidewalk and grass. So I'm just coming through and kind of cleaning up some of that because it ends up looking a little, I don't know. I feel like I'm seeing like a dark line between them. I don't want to. I want it to be kind of going straight from grass to sidewalk. heading back and checking quite a bit. Um, Actually, if I wasn't able to look up there and kind of see the viewpoint, I think I'd probably be checking even more because it's just so hard to tell if you're on the right path when you're looking at a super stretched out image. All right, I am moving to the pedestal here, I think. So this area here. For the baby wipe cleanup. All right, now we start adding in a little bit more black because we're getting to kind of a darker section here. So I want this top section to really be kind of a concrete. Not as, I'm trying to figure it out. I don't really want it to be as yellow as these paths down here. By the way, I thought I was done enough, but I keep coming back to them.
Do you have any advice for those people that are trying to get into chalk art and would like to try this out, and how they would gather clients and start making money from it?
Sure. I would say if you want, well, I'll answer it two different ways. One, if you just want to get into it as a hobby, for example, or if you want to end up doing like 3D stuff, I would recommend getting some soft pastel. I like Koss brand, Koss, is sort of a great place to start. Um, and then basically from there, um, well, one, I mean, you can go out and just do it for fun, give it a try. But also there are a ton of great tutorials online for making 3D art. If that's something you're interested in, there is a book by Tracy Lee Stum called The Art of Chalk, which is a great one to, if you like reading books on your hobbies, um, that is always great. And just basically start working on things that you find interesting and love. So if you're a fan of something, um, you can do something like that. If you're passionate about a cause, there are always, you can basically volunteer to spread the word because chalk's a great kind of, marketing out in the streets. So I would say if you want to do it for fun, that's a great way to kind of, go out, different places are different. Sadly, I think there are not many places in Chicago that would necessarily smile on you if you showed up with a piece of chalk. But I know there are a lot of areas, if you're not trying to do it on Michigan Avenue, you could definitely get out there. If you want to create chalk art as a living, uh, and you want to do it for clients, I would recommend uh, starting. Well, one, you can start very, very small, which is what I did. And for small businesses, sometimes they have promotions or things they want to, um, drive traffic out in front of their place. Like in COVID times, it's a great time for some people want, if a business has people standing out in front of it throughout the day, they may want some art for people to look at. I've just gone up and done like almost like a cold call, but like going up to a business and be like, here's what I can offer. And you can start with a pretty um, small fee for that, and kind of go from there. The other thing is that, um, when it comes to like do festivals, that will get you a lot more comfortable with the medium. That's up for your people who want to do hobbies too. Um, yeah, like getting involved in festivals and finding out, trying to improve your skills there. Um, and then when it comes to like who would want chalk art and how is that, how would you find business and how would you find people to pay you is if you think about it like chalk is a great way to get either a message out in an area that does not allow permanent messaging, or it can um, be something super fun that a client would want to, in general, make people feel good. Like it is definitely, uh, we are living in a day and especially a year where putting a smile on people's faces is worthwhile. Worthwhile. It's not only worthwhile just in general, like on a grand scheme, but it's worthwhile for companies to support the arts, and it's great to kind of help people out. So that would be my little spiel there. And I would say if you are in the Chicago area, or I guess if you're here, you're at least at school here. But you can also feel free to reach out to me. I can answer any questions or kind of give you a boost in a certain direction. So yeah. This side over here to the right, I'm trying to make not in the sun. So this is sort of a shadowed side. So I'm using a lot more of the cool purples, blues, grays. And on the sun side, adding a lot more of the yellows and oranges. too much though. Trying to let the texture of the chalk really add some of this concrete. Not to work it too much. Alright, really bright edge here. That angle is not great actually. I'm going to see if I can. I'm going to move this. I'm going to put some bricks on this column. I'm going to move my handy dandy iPad holder around. There we go. Other side view. Alright, time for bricks, which I'm going to start with putting down just a regular old plain color, and I'll come in with sort of the grout lines next. And then the side facing towards the sun, I get a little orangey brown-ish. And then this other side here, I'm going to give a little bit of a purplish hue. And on this side, I'm going to go gray for the grout lines. Put these in perspective. And as this is going down, these lines are getting closer together and more indistinct.
Do you have any upcoming projects that you have that we could check you out on for the future?
I do. I am coming up. I'm doing a Tex-Mex restaurant in Indianapolis. So that will be this next week. Um, I will also be doing another virtual event where I will be creating over the course of a weekend a 3D piece of art and paint that will be um, on a wall and a floor. So it'll be kind of a all-encompassing piece of art. That will be for Artisphere, ARTISPHERE, artist, art, I, sphere. Um, and that will be at the beginning of October. So, yeah, those are some. And I might be doing another mural soon as well. So, yeah, if you check out my Instagram page, I post everything there when it's done under Nate Baranowski. So that's my plug for myself. But it's basically just an art page. So if you enjoy seeing art on social media, that's what you're gonna get.
How did your family take to whenever they found out you were going to do this professionally? Did they take it well, or were they worried?
Sure. They were really worried at the beginning. It was definitely, how are you going to make money doing this? So for sure, that was I think it took, so 2015 is when I started doing it full time. And I think, it probably took a couple of years uh, for my parents to see like, oh, okay, he's he's doing enough work. He's gonna be okay. So I guess that is at the end of the day, I understand. I understand the art can be a difficult career to get into, and it can definitely be a tough one to make a go of. So, oh, here's my another another soapbox thing. If you want to go into art as a career, please, 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 um, take some time to really try to be great with your invoicing, um, and try to work really hard at your relationship with clients. Um, because I know a lot of artists who would love to do it full time and love creating art, but there's the side of art where you are talking to clients and having conference calls with them and talking to them, which are part of the job that I enjoy. That's kind of part of it as well, and you have to be able to um, kind of be able to sell your own skills. And so it's not just about, there are many wonderfully talented artists who um, haven't been able to make a go of it. And part of it is they just don't, as far as talking to people, working with people, it's been very difficult for them. So if you can improve your skills and you want to go into art, field, really work really hard at that. And if it's not your jam and you're like, nope, I don't want to talk to people, that's why I want to be an artist, because I want to be in my studio, then I would recommend finding someone you trust and work with them as your representative. They can do all of the client talking for you. So that's my little spiel. All right, we have bricks in. We have bricks. So, and then up here, I don't know if you can see from maybe this perspective, but I have more detail up towards the top. And then as we head down, it just loses detail because you want it to look like it's heading down, far away from you. And the farther away you are from something, the less you can see, actual bricks. This all becomes, just kind of a one color from far away, which is cool. All right, we are heading, I think next up, we're gonna start moving up the legs. I might just work bottom to top, I think. Maybe. Maybe. So, I'm gonna work on that next. So, just a little teaser for kind of what this will be at the end. You'll be able to, if I lean this up some, at the end, as he's holding you in his hand, you'll be able to stand inside of here. He's got you in the palm of his hand. So that is will be the final once we actually have Dibs in there doing his thing, holding you up. But for now, I am loading up on some more chalk down here. So I have this as my sort of initial grouping, and then in here I have a bunch of extra pieces of chalk art, which I have not kept in the greatest organizational shape. I tell myself every time, next time I will organize them better. And then the next time comes around and I'm still not organized in those. All right, I'm going to get one more stick of white back over here. One more white.
How much chalk do you go through, for a piece like this or something bigger?
Sorry?
How much chalk do you go through?
A lot less than you think. I probably white and black I'll go through a little bit more, but probably in total 12 sticks of chalk maybe for the whole thing. And one of these, maybe even less, maybe 6. You basically run, so I'll run it, I'll throw it right here. Look. So that's the size of, one stick. And you'll probably, each color, by the end of it, of a piece this size, you'll get down to maybe that size next to it. So you probably lose about a third every time you do a piece. But if you have a piece that is a lot of one color, for example, the green that I use on the grass, I think I went through half a stick of this just on this area in here. All right, we are moving 2 feet. And I don't think I need to slide this. You guys can see this right here. everything that gets closer to the camera pinches down smaller and smaller. So if you'll notice how small these feet are in actuality, you can look at it from this camera over here. This is, an inch and a half for a foot. But look at the other viewpoint. Compared to this foot here, and you go to that hand up there, that hand is probably 2 feet long, and that's 1.5 inches long. And they look maybe only 2 times, 3 times the size. And that's the sort of the magic of perspective. All right, foot time. Pulling up my reference image. So as we move to the main subject matter, I'm definitely going to be working a little harder to put in a decent amount of detail. So, for example, on these shoes, putting in some tiny laces, a little bit of shadowing on the other side of them. More laces. This shoe looks a little funky here. A little more blue. Use a little bit of white for some top glare off the top of the tennis shoe. Tiny little baby shoes at this scale, but they will fit in perspective. I think this shoe actually comes up a little bit more. All right, moving up the leg. Again, I'm kind of holding off on doing black, which I'm not sure how well it can be seen. Actually, this camera has a decent amount of, you can kind of see the contrast in both of them, but sometimes the camera takes this dark gray, and I can kind of make it look black, and then it's not until I add black chalk that all of a sudden it goes, wait a minute, it can go a lot darker than that. Oh, we get the follow on Instagram banner. Thank you. All right, moving to the shorts. I'm getting some white in here. Move this up. moving to the Jersey. That's all right.
What would you say you like to do more, like landscape type of things, people, animals, cartoons?
I didn't hear that first part.
I would say, like, what do you have a favorite of what you like to do more, like whether it's
Oh, yes.
landscape, people, animals?
I think I enjoy doing portraits. I think it's the I mean animals are fun too. Doing I think it's the challenge of portraits that I think I find the most interesting. And I think it's also as like people are typically drawn to other pictures of people. So that's a definitely something that I enjoy doing.
Do you mostly stick to like larger scale projects, or do you have like smaller ones?
Sorry?
Do you usually stick with like larger scale projects, or do you also do like smaller ones?
Yeah, I do smaller ones as well. Yeah, I do like small, commissioned pieces and family pet portraits and things like that, which are, yeah, I also do like, and those come in all different sizes. I also use pastel pencils some of the time, and that's great for like, all right, an 8 inch by 10 inch piece, not something stretching over a floor, for example.
And then what's the longest you've gone like straight through without any breaks?
Um, I don't know. 6 hours, maybe.
Oh, that was my cat. She was meowing. So I was just like thinking, like even me, I'm getting hungry, and I like snack some food. So I don't know how you can do it for so long.
I think I mean, a lot of it is just like being super focused of what you're working at, which I actually usually have to remind myself while I'm working on a piece, like, hey, eat, take take a break, have a snack, have a drink of water. All right. I think I'm going to move to do some of the face. Mostly because, yeah, it seems like the thing to do next. All right. Move this over.
Do you at all have like a go-to snack for whenever you're doing a piece like this, or chalk art piece?
Can you say that one more time? Sorry, I think the beginning of these questions are cutting out a little bit.
You're good. I was just saying, do you ever have like a go-to snack? Because obviously there's some things like Cheetos that are probably not the best idea.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would absolutely crush a Cheeto though. That sounds really great right now that you've mentioned it. No, I think go-to snacks. Yeah, something that I don't have to directly touch is always great. But I wish I could say something like something healthy. But usually, I think when I'm working, I have the craving for like the most junk foody of junk food. That, yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything specific. I don't know if this part even shows up on the camera, but I am putting in the black first. I think I'm going to try to work darker to light in this one. Here's the plan.
Going off on that favorite snack again, what about like a favorite drink? Like, I don't know, I feel like I'd have to be drinking a whole bunch of caffeine. It's like
Yeah,
taking attention.
yeah, I would say something in the iced coffee realm is is great. I actually like. I'm not a big soda drinker for the most part, but there is something about while working a like regular old Coke tastes great, especially if you're outside and it's hot. I do every once in a while itch my face. I might have chalk in my hands when I do it. So every once in a while I do check and make sure I don't have like a giant chalk smudge on my face. But that's part of the job description, I think.
What would you say takes up the most time? Is it like the actual application of the chalk or like the blending?
I think it's probably the application. Um, I mean, trying to, because blending's pretty, I mean, it's pretty easy as far as putting it together. But I guess you do a lot of blending just by adding like 2 or 3 colors to a spot without ever even touching it with your hand. And I think that ends up being time consuming, having those different, putting on the different colors. Because like I think up here in the face, for example, I have 3 different colors that I'm kind of layering over top of one another to try to get the value that I'm looking for. Checking on my phone. basically I'm going through now, and all those things in the piece that I think to myself, like, it's bothering me a little bit. For example, I feel like I kind of lost the curve here in the shirt, so I'm kind of bringing back in some more grays. So I think it's really a coming back in and trying to look for any spots in the camera that seem troublesome or that they're not working that well, and trying to fix them. think I'm going to, because I believe I have a better camera on the iPad. I think I'm going to switch viewpoints here. I'm going to put this up here with it. So I'll give you guys a look of kind of the overall view of it from the side. Once I clean my hands off, so I can give you a walking through it. There with two right here. Oh, I'm standing right in the way of the camera. My bad. All right. I'll give you the overtop view here. Just you can kind of really see the extent of the stretch. I will switch. This one will go down here. Looking at a door. There we go. I'll bring this one. A little bit better colors on the iPad here. So there you go. I think we are going to basically call this one finished. I will definitely see if I can show you it's best for a look where you can stand on top of this hand. I think with this iPad, I'm not sure if I can give you both. Hold on a second, I'll try. So with a portrait mode on a phone, which is what it's at its best for, you'll be able to stand right here. Let's try my balance out for a second and stand up on top of it, and then have the whole thing kind of looking down below, saying hi. So there you go.
It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wish I could enter this giveaway and try to get it. Oh my gosh, well, thank you so much for doing this for us. Again, guys, remember, just fill out that link, the survey, for a chance to enter. We already have some entries, so if you want it, you better go place in and try to get it. Do you have any last words before we log off?
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun, and hope some people got to enjoy it.
Yep, I know I did. It's amazing the things that you can do, and I can't believe that it's 3D. It's insane. I wish I was that talented. All right, well, I'll go ahead and end this live stream. That's it, guys. The DePaul Chalk Festival is finished. Alrighty, bye.